Hi Odyssey, this is Mrs. Boyd, and today I'm going to talk about volume and finding volume using cubes. And today we're going to talk about how to count unit cubes and building solids using cubes, okay? So before we get started, I do want to kind of talk about the difference between a plane figure and a solid figure, okay? So I have a drawing here, and I have a line, and I have a rectangle. So my line is going to be a one dimension. I have length, and that's all I really have. So if I wanted to measure a line or a line segment, I would measure in centimeters, I might measure in feet. I see that here. I might measure in feet, I might measure in miles if I'm going to just measure one dimension. But over here I have a plane figure. And my plane figure has two dimensions, so we say things like squares and rectangles and hexagons and triangles. They're all two dimensions because they have two ways that I can find the area or the inside. So I have length and I have width. So I'm going to measure two-dimensional figures, they're inside. I'm going to measure them using square units like square feet or square miles or square yards or square centimeters. Okay? But today what we're going to talk about the difference between a two-dimensional and a solid figure, okay? So a two-dimensional plane figure has two dimensions, length and width. A solid figure has three dimensions. So I'm going to attempt while showing you. So if I have a three-dimension, I'm going to have length and width like my square here, but then I'm going to add some dimension to it. I'm going to add height to it. So now I have my length, I have my width, and now I also have height. So if you can notice that a little bit, I've just added one more dimension, and that's going to be some height that I've given my figure, okay? I can do the same thing with this two-dimensional. I can draw it very similar, but now when I draw it as a three-dimension, where am I at here? I can see that I've drawn some dimensions to it, so I've drawn some height to it, okay? So what I want to do is show you a few solids that you might be familiar with that have a third dimension. So I have a hexagonal prism, I have a cylinder, I have a rectangular prism, I have a sphere, and I have a square pyramid. So I'm sure you're really familiar with all of these. I know that you've seen these before in the last few years. So what we're going to do is we're going to be concentrating on prisms and cubes. So I'm going to be this week and next week talking a lot about our prisms, our rectangular prisms, and our cube. And I have a really big cube here. And when we're talking today about building solids using cubes, the one thing I want us to remember for today is that we measure using unit cubes. We measure volume using cubes. So a unit cube is part of a measurement that we use volume. So I have some snap cubes here, and each of these snap cubes would be a unit cube. So if I wanted to know the volume of this, I would count my cubes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have 12 unit cubes here, so the volume of this would be 12 unit cubes, okay? Or we might say 12 cubic units. So that's what I want you to learn most about today, is that we measure volume using cubic units, and that we also, when we look at our cubes, we also recognize that it has length, width, and height. And as a reminder, that length, width, and height, we would say we have a face, we would say we have an edge, and we have these vertices that meet at each point of a cube, okay? So as you watch other videos today, and as you are working in your assignment and working in your journal, I just want you to remember those two things today. Is one of these is a cubic unit, and if I had 4 cubic units, they could look like this, could look like this, or it could look like this or this. That's what we're going to learn about today. And then tomorrow we're going to do some similar things, just we're going to put some cubic units together in some different ways. And so it'll be very similar to what we did today. So we're kind of starting on an easy note, and so hopefully your journal entry today and your math assignment today will not be too difficult. But be sure to watch the videos so you know how to access your journal and your assignment. And I will see you guys a little bit later. All right, bye-bye.